growing up eating garbage, but she developed a new flavor and surprised everyone. Jennifer Robinson took a deep breath before pushing the glass door of the most elegant restaurant in New York City. Her hands trembled slightly as she held the worn cloth bag she'd carried since childhood, the same one she used to gather food behind Chelsea Market when she was just 8 years old. Chef Michael Patterson stopped what he was doing when he saw the young black woman, now 22, step into the immaculate kitchen of Village Flavors. Her white apron was clean, but he immediately noticed it was patched in places. His experienced eyes scanned her with barely concealed disdain, from the black cap covering her curly hair to the shoes clearly not meant for a professional kitchen. "You must be Jennifer," he said, not hiding the irritation in his voice. "I hope you came prepared because we don't have time for amateurs here." Jennifer nodded silently, placing her old bag on the stainless steel counter. The other 5 finalists for the sous chef position were already at their stations, all with expensive equipment and flawless uniforms. She knew she stood out completely in that environment, but she had something they couldn't imagine, a survival story that had shaped her palate in ways no culinary school could teach. For 15 years of her life, Jennifer had turned scraps into meals to feed her 3 younger siblings in South Bronx. While other children played, she sifted through market leftovers for bruised fruit, wilted vegetables, and greens vendors deemed unfit for sale. With those scraps, she created dishes that made her siblings smile even on the hardest days. "Today's test is simple," Chef Michael announced, walking between the counters with authority. "You have 2 hours to prepare a dish that represents the essence of American cuisine. You may use any ingredients available in the pantry." Jennifer watched the other candidates rush to the pantry, grabbing the best cuts of meat and freshest ingredients. She waited for everyone to choose first, then calmly made her way to the shelves. While they fought over prime cuts, she collected discarded cassava peels, unwanted kale stems, and a piece of tough meat that had been left behind. Chef Michael observed her choices with a mix of disbelief and disdain. "Are you sure that's what you want to use?" he asked, pointing at the seemingly worthless ingredients she'd gathered. "Yes, chef," Jennifer replied, beginning to clean the cassava peels with precise movements that revealed years of practice. Slowly, something extraordinary began happening at her station. The cassava peels turned into golden, crispy chips. The kale stems became an aromatic sauté that filled the kitchen with a scent that made everyone turn their heads. The tough piece of meat was seasoned with a spice blend she carried in a dented tin, then slow-cooked until it was tender as butter. Sarah Miller, the restaurant's current sous chef, had initially ignored Jennifer completely, but as the minutes passed, she found herself watching the young woman's every move with growing curiosity. There was something in how Jennifer handled ingredients that was unlike anything she'd seen in 15 years of professional cooking. "Where did you learn that technique?" Sarah asked quietly, stepping closer to Jennifer's station. "I learned out of necessity," Jennifer answered simply, never stopping her work. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us newcomers a lot. Now, continuing. Time was running out as Jennifer began her final dish. With movements that looked like a choreographed dance years in the making, she combined all the elements she had prepared. The crispy cassava peels formed a golden base on the plate, topped with a sautéed kale stem mixture that shimmered with a sauce she'd created using the meat broth. The shredded meat was arranged artistically at the center, crowned with hibiscus flowers she'd found dried in a forgotten corner of the pantry. "Time!" shouted Chef Michael Patterson. Everyone stopped what they were doing and stepped back from their creations. The chef began evaluating the other contestants' dishes first, offering technical comments and tasting each preparation with a serious expression. When he reached Jennifer's station, he paused for a long moment, just staring at her plate. "This is interesting," he said, picking up his fork with visible reluctance. The first bite completely changed Chef Michael's expression. His eyes widened, and he chewed slowly, as if trying to decipher something impossible. The flavor he was experiencing was too complex to come from such simple ingredients, yet there it was, real and undeniable. "My goodness," murmured Sarah Miller, who had been given permission to taste as well. "What is this flavor?" Jennifer stayed silent, watching the reactions of the two seasoned professionals. She knew exactly what that flavor was. The taste of creativity born from necessity, of transforming what others saw as trash into something beautiful and nourishing. It was the taste of 15 years scavenging for food and discovering that even the most overlooked parts of ingredients held potential for something extraordinary. "How did you get this flavor from the cassava peels?" Chef Michael pressed, taking another bite. "They have a natural bitterness that, when treated right, turns sweet," Jennifer explained. "I learned that when I was 10 and had nothing else to eat. If you toast them slowly with a pinch of salt and brown sugar, they caramelize on the outside and stay creamy inside." Sarah looked at Chef Michael, then at Jennifer, then back at the plate. In 15 years of working in fine dining, she had never tasted anything like this. There was a rustic sophistication to the dish that challenged everything she thought she knew about cooking. "And this sauce with the sautéed stems?" Sarah asked. "The meat cooking liquid mixed with the juices from the stems when you sauté them very slowly," Jennifer replied. "My grandmother always said nothing goes to waste in a kitchen. Everything has value." Chef Michael was clearly unsettled. He had planned to dismiss Jennifer quickly, but now he was faced with something he couldn't explain or replicate. Her dish had surpassed all the others, not just in flavor, but in creativity and technique. "Where did you study cooking?" he asked abruptly. "I never had formal training," Jennifer admitted. "I learned by cooking for my family since I was little." Her answer left an awkward silence in the kitchen. The other contestants, all graduates of prestigious schools, looked at Jennifer with a mix of shock and indignation. How could someone without training create something so far beyond what they'd prepared? "That's impossible," said one contestant, Brandon Thompson, who'd graduated from the most expensive culinary institute in New York City. "No one develops this kind of technique without formal training." "It's possible," Jennifer replied calmly. "When you've truly been hungry, you learn to see possibilities where others only see trash." Chef Michael was visibly uncomfortable with where this was going. He had built his reputation on the idea that fine dining required years of formal study and sophisticated techniques. The existence of someone like Jennifer challenged all of that. "Well, today's test was just the first round," he said, regaining his composure. "Tomorrow we'll have the second challenge, and it will be much more complex." That night, Jennifer returned to the small apartment she shared with her siblings on the outskirts of town. Her younger brother, 16-year-old Tyler, was eagerly waiting for her in the tiny kitchen. "So, Jen, how did it go?" he asked, noticing her thoughtful expression. "It went okay, I think," she replied, pulling a container of leftovers from the bag she had brought from the restaurant. "But the chef really didn't like me being there." "Of course he didn't," said her 19-year-old sister Amy, who worked as a cleaner during the day and studied accounting at night. "People like us bother them. We show them we don't need their fancy degrees to be good at what we do." Jennifer smiled sadly. Amy had always been the most rebellious in the family, the one who questioned the inequalities they faced the most. But Jennifer just wanted a chance to show her talent, no matter where she had learned it. "Remember when you used to make those banana peel muffins?" asked their youngest brother, 15-year-old Nathan. "I thought it was silly, but now I get it. You were creating something special." The next morning, Jennifer arrived at the restaurant determined to give her best, no matter the hostility she faced. The second challenge was to prepare a full 3-course menu in 4 hours, using only ingredients the chef considered second-rate. When she saw the selection of available ingredients, she almost smiled. There were chicken scraps other chefs would discard, vegetables on the verge of spoiling, and bruised fruit that would normally be thrown away. To her, it was like coming home. Sarah watched Jennifer work for the first 2 hours and was fascinated by what she saw. The young woman not only used every part of the ingredients, but also created combinations Sarah had never considered. Vegetable peels became chips, stems turned into sauces, and seeds were transformed into seasonings. "Can I ask you something?" Sarah approached during a break. "How old were you when you started cooking professionally?" "I've never cooked professionally," Jennifer answered without stopping her work. "This is my first try for a restaurant job." "What do you mean?" Sarah couldn't hide her surprise. "I've only ever cooked for my family," Jennifer explained. When I lost my parents at 12, I had to learn how to feed my siblings with whatever little we could scrape together. We couldn't afford real food, so I learned to make the most of what we had. The story hit Sarah like a punch to the gut. She had grown up in a middle-class family, always with access to good education and opportunities. The idea of a 12-year-old having to feed 3 younger siblings with scraps was something she could barely process. "And your siblings? How are they now?" Sarah asked. "Tyler is finishing high school and wants to study engineering. Amy is in accounting school and works to support herself. Nathan is a freshman in high school and great at math," Jennifer replied, pride evident in her voice. "They're all smarter than me, they just needed a chance." "You fed your siblings and kept them in school all these years." Sarah was clearly moved. "I did what any older sister would do," Jennifer said simply. "They're my responsibility." Sarah stepped away from Jennifer's station with tears in her eyes. For the first time in years, she was questioning her own values and priorities. That young woman had achieved something that went far beyond cooking. She had used food as a tool for love and protection. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. Jennifer's first dish was ready. An appetizer that combined sweet potato peel chips with a spread made from roasted pumpkin seeds and herbs she had found wilted at the back of the fridge. The presentation was simple, but the flavors were complex and surprising. Chef Michael Patterson tasted the appetizer with a skeptical expression, but once again, his face completely changed after the first bite. The sweet potato peels were both sweet and salty, creating a perfect contrast with the creamy, slightly spicy pumpkin seed spread. "Where did you learn to roast seeds like this?" he asked, clearly intrigued. "My grandmother taught me before she passed," Jennifer replied. "She always said pumpkin seeds were too nutritious to throw away. I learned to roast them and make paste when I was 8. The second dish was even more impressive. A sauté of broccoli and cauliflower stems transformed into a creamy risotto, served with pieces of chicken she had slow-cooked in its own broth, seasoned with spices. Sarah Miller tasted the dish and closed her eyes, savoring every element. The texture was perfect, the flavors balanced in a way she had never experienced before. This wasn't just food. It was edible art made from what others would consider scraps. "How did you get this creaminess without using heavy cream or butter?" Sarah asked. "The stems release a natural starch when you cook them very slowly and keep stirring," Jennifer explained. "It takes longer, but it becomes creamy on its own. I learned this trying to make the stems taste good for my siblings to eat." The main course was almost ready when Jennifer noticed one of the other contestants watching her technique a little too closely. Brandon Thompson had realized she was creating something exceptional and had started mentally noting her methods. "Just copying the techniques won't help," Jennifer said calmly, without looking at him. "It only works when you understand the reason behind each step." "You think you know more than someone trained in culinary school?" Brandon replied arrogantly. "I know every ingredient has its time and its purpose," Jennifer said, finally turning to face him. "And I know that when you cook with love and necessity, the result is always different from when you cook just to impress." The response left Brandon speechless. There was a wisdom in this young woman that went far beyond her years, forged by years of premature responsibility and survival. Jennifer's dessert was the moment that left everyone in the kitchen completely silent. She had turned discarded fruit peels into a bright, aromatic compote, paired with ice cream made from overripe fruit pulp she had salvaged, transforming it into a dessert worthy of the finest restaurants. Chef Michael tasted the dessert, and for the first time in years was genuinely at a loss for words. The flavor was intense and complex, with layers of sweetness and acidity that complemented each other perfectly. It was impossible to believe it had been made from ingredients he would have considered trash. "This is impossible," he murmured, taking another bite. "These fruits were practically spoiled." "Ripe fruits have more natural sugar," Jennifer explained. "If you remove the bad parts and concentrate the flavor of the good ones, it's sweeter and more flavorful than unripe fruit. I learned this by picking through fruit at the market. The ugliest ones were always the tastiest. The tasting ended in complete silence. All the other candidates had created technically correct dishes, but none had reached the level of flavor and creativity that Jennifer had demonstrated. It was impossible to deny that she was operating on a completely different level from the rest. "Well," Chef Michael Patterson finally said, clearly unsettled by what he had just tasted, "the results will be announced tomorrow. You may leave." That night, Sarah couldn't stop thinking about Jennifer. She had worked with famous chefs, studied sophisticated techniques, but she had never seen anyone create flavors so unique and moving. There was something in Jennifer's food that went beyond technique. There was soul. She decided to do something she had never done before. She took Jennifer's address from the records and went to visit the young woman at home. She needed to understand better who this person was, someone who was challenging everything she thought she knew about cooking. Jennifer's apartment was on the top floor of a modest building in the South Bronx. Sarah climbed the 4 flights of stairs and knocked on the door, unsure what to expect. When Jennifer opened the door, Sarah could see over her shoulder a small but impeccably clean and organized apartment. "Sarah, what are you doing here?" Jennifer asked, surprised but not uncomfortable. "Can I come in? I need to talk to you about something important," Sarah said. Jennifer led her into the small living room where her 3 siblings were studying around a makeshift table. They all stood politely when Sarah entered, and she immediately sensed the family dynamic. It was clear Jennifer was seen as a mother figure by the younger ones, and there was deep respect and love among them all. "These are my siblings," Jennifer said, making introductions. "Tyler, Amy, and Nathan." "Are you the sous chef at the restaurant where Jen is trying to work?" Tyler asked directly. "I am," Sarah replied. "And I came here because I need you all to know that your sister is the most talented person I've ever seen in a kitchen." The 3 siblings smiled proudly, but Amy kept a cautious expression. "And," Amy asked, "is that going to matter when her boss decides she's not good enough because she doesn't have a degree?" The question was blunt and painful, but Sarah recognized the truth in it. Chef Michael was clearly bothered by Jennifer's talent, precisely because it challenged his beliefs about formal training and education. "That's exactly what I came to talk about," Sarah said. "Jennifer, can I ask you a personal question?" "Go ahead," Jennifer replied, offering coffee that smelled better than anything Sarah had ever had in expensive cafes. "Why do you want to work at that specific restaurant?" Sarah asked. Jennifer was silent for a moment, glancing at her siblings before answering. "Because I need a salary good enough to give them a better life," she finally said. "Tyler wants to study engineering. Amy needs help finishing college, and Nathan has the potential to go far if he gets the right opportunities. A famous restaurant pays better than anywhere else I could work." "What if I told you there's a better way to make that happen?" Sarah asked. Everyone in the room leaned in. Sarah took a deep breath before continuing. "Chef Michael is bothered by you because you prove everything he believes about cooking might be wrong," she said. "He's going to try to eliminate you tomorrow, no matter how good your food is." "I knew it," Amy said bitterly. "It's always like this for people like us." "But," Sarah continued, "I have a different proposal. How about we open our own restaurant?" The silence that followed was absolute. Everyone looked at Sarah as if she had spoken in a foreign language. "What do you mean?" Jennifer finally asked. "I have savings, industry contacts, and 15 years of administrative experience," Sarah explained. "You have a talent I've never seen before and a story that would inspire so many people. Together we could create something truly special." "But I don't have money to invest," Jennifer said. "Your talent is the investment," Sarah replied. "I'll handle the financial and administrative side, and you take care of the kitchen and creating the dishes. It would be an equal partnership." Tyler, Amy, and Nathan watched Jennifer expectantly. It was an opportunity none of them had imagined possible, but it also carried enormous risk. "I need to think about it," Jennifer said. "It's a very big decision." "Of course," Sarah said, standing to leave. "But think fast. Tomorrow, Chef Michael will announce the results, and after that, it might be too late to change course." After Sarah left, the 4 siblings talked late into the night about the proposal. It was risky to give up a guaranteed job for an uncertain partnership, but it was also Jennifer's chance to finally take control of her own destiny. "Are you scared?" Nathan asked. "Terrified," Jennifer admitted. But maybe it's time to bet on myself instead of trying to fit into someone else's world. The next morning, Jennifer arrived at the restaurant with her decision made. No matter what Chef Michael announced, she already knew her path. "Before I announce the results," Chef Michael said to the gathered candidates, "I want to say this was one of the most challenging selection processes I've ever conducted." He looked directly at Jennifer as he spoke, and she sensed something beyond professionalism in his gaze: resentment. The chosen candidate demonstrated refined technique, solid theoretical knowledge, and the ability to work under pressure, he continued. "Brandon Thompson will be our new sous chef." Jennifer wasn't surprised, but she still felt a pang of disappointment. The other candidates congratulated Brandon, but Sarah remained silent, her expression clearly indignant. "Jennifer," Chef Michael said, "I'd like to speak with you privately." They went to his office, where he closed the door before speaking. "You have talent," he said, "but talent isn't enough in this field. This is a serious business that requires proper training and deep technical knowledge." "I understand," Jennifer said calmly. "I can offer you a position as a kitchen assistant," he continued. "It's a good place to start and learn the fundamentals of the profession." Jennifer looked at him for a long moment before responding. "Thank you for the offer, Chef," she finally said, "but I'll have to decline." "Decline?" He couldn't hide his surprise. "Why?" "Because I've learned that when you have something special to offer, you shouldn't settle for crumbs from someone who can't recognize your worth," she replied, remembering her grandmother's words. When she stepped out of the office, Sarah was waiting in the hallway. "So, ready to change the culinary world?" Sarah asked with a smile. "I am," Jennifer said, "but I have one condition." "What is it?" "I want our restaurant to also be a training center for underprivileged youth," Jennifer said. "We'll operate normally during the day, but at night, we'll offer free cooking classes for those who can't afford formal schooling." Sarah grinned widely. "I was hoping you'd say that," she said. "I'm already looking for a space that can accommodate both functions." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. 6 months later, the restaurant Roots was becoming a sensation in New York City. The concept was simple yet revolutionary: high-end cuisine created from ingredients that would normally be discarded, served in a space that celebrated transformation and resilience. Jennifer had developed a menu that changed constantly, based on ingredients they salvaged from markets, fairs, and suppliers. Peels became gourmet chips, stems turned into sophisticated sauces, and overripe fruits transformed into award-winning desserts. The initial culinary reviews were mixed. Some traditionalist critics turned up their noses at the concept, but others immediately recognized they were witnessing something genuinely innovative. The public, however, embraced the restaurant from day one. "You know what the most amazing part is," Sarah said to Jennifer on an especially busy night. "It's not just the food that's drawing attention, it's the story behind it." It was true. Jennifer's story had spread through social media and the press, inspiring people across the city. Young folks from the South Bronx came to the restaurant to meet the chef, who had turned a childhood of hardship into a successful career. But success also brought unexpected challenges. One Thursday evening, as Jennifer prepared one of the main dishes, Sarah came into the kitchen with a worried expression. "We have a problem," she said quietly. "Chef Michael is here. He wants to talk to you." Jennifer wiped her hands on her apron and went out to meet the chef who had once rejected her talent. He was sitting at a discreet table, dressed casually instead of in his chef's uniform. "May I sit?" he asked as she approached. "You may," Jennifer replied, curious about what he wanted. "I came to apologize," he said bluntly, "and to make a proposal." Jennifer was surprised by his frankness. "Apologize for what?" "For being prejudiced and arrogant," he admitted. "For the past few weeks, I've been coming here in disguise to try your food. It's exceptional, better than anything I've ever created." "Thank you," Jennifer said simply. "I want you to come work with me," he continued. "I can offer you partnership in my restaurant, a very high salary, and international recognition." Jennifer studied him for a moment before responding. Why the change of heart? Because I realized my ego was interfering with my professional judgment, he answered honestly. You humiliated me professionally, and instead of recognizing your talent, I reacted with petulance. And what changed? My restaurant is losing customers to you, he admitted. And more than that, I've realized my approach to cooking is outdated. You're creating something new, something I'd like to learn. Jennifer considered the offer for a long moment. It was exactly the kind of opportunity she had dreamed of months ago, but now the circumstances were different. It's a generous offer, she finally said, but I'll have to decline. Why? He couldn't hide his frustration. Because here, I'm not just a chef, Jennifer explained. I'm part of something bigger. We're changing lives, not just serving expensive food. Chef Michael looked around the restaurant, observing the young people working in the dining area and kitchen. Many were clearly from working-class backgrounds, yet they worked with pride and professionalism that rivaled any upscale establishment. Can I at least learn some of your techniques? He asked humbly. You can, Jennifer replied, but you'll have to come to our evening classes like everyone else. We don't give special treatment here. He nodded, accepting the condition. And Chef Michael, said Jennifer when he stood up to leave. Yes? Thank you for rejecting me, she said with a smile. If you had hired me, I never would have discovered I could fly on my own wings. In the following months, Roots continued growing and gaining recognition. Jennifer was invited to television shows, culinary magazines, and even to give talks at cooking schools about innovation and sustainability. But the achievement she was most proud of wasn't in the magazines. Tyler had earned a full scholarship to study engineering at a private university. Amy had graduated with an accounting degree and landed a job at a mid-sized firm. Nathan was excelling in high school and already talking about following his sister's footsteps in gastronomy. You saved all of us, Tyler said one evening when the family was gathered in the apartment, which was now being renovated with the money Jennifer earned from the restaurant. I didn't save anyone, Jennifer replied. I just used what I learned from you all to create something good. It was all of us together who got here. A year and a half after Roots opened, Jennifer received a call that would change everything again. It was from a television producer offering her own cooking show, focused on sustainability and zero-waste cooking. It's an incredible opportunity, Sarah said when Jennifer told her about the offer. You could take your message to the whole country. But I'd have to leave the restaurant, Jennifer said, worried. Not necessarily, Sarah replied. We could film right here. The show would be about the daily life of Roots and the classes we teach. It'd be a way to show everyone that high-end cuisine can be sustainable and socially conscious. The idea was perfect. The show premiered 6 months later and was an instant success. Cooking from Roots didn't just feature innovative recipes, but also the stories of the people who attended the restaurant's evening classes. One participant who stood out was Mrs. Jenkins, a 70-year-old woman who had lost her job as a cleaner and was trying to start over by selling food on the street. Jennifer taught her techniques to turn market leftovers into gourmet dishes she could sell at higher prices. This girl taught me there's no such thing as bad food, just wasted creativity, Mrs. Jenkins said in one recording, holding a pastry made with cassava peel dough and sautéed vegetable stems. The show brought national visibility to the concept Jennifer had developed. Restaurants in other cities began adopting similar practices, and culinary schools started adding sustainability and zero-waste courses to their curriculums. But with success came unexpected pressures. Major fast food chains tried to hire Jennifer to develop sustainable product lines, offering million-dollar deals she consistently refused. Why don't you accept at least one of these offers? Amy asked during a family lunch. With that money, you could open restaurants in multiple cities. Because it's not about the money, Jennifer replied. If I accept, they'll take my ideas, twist the concept, and turn it into another marketing strategy. What we do here only works because it's genuine. The answer showed a maturity that even impressed Sarah. Jennifer had learned to protect not just her culinary techniques, but the values behind them. 2 years after opening, Roots had become so much more than a business. It was a community center that offered not just meals and cooking classes, but also career guidance, entrepreneurship courses, and support for young people who wanted to pursue a career in gastronomy. Jennifer had developed partnerships with markets and fairs across the city to receive daily ingredients that would otherwise be discarded. What wasn't used in the restaurant went to the classes, and what remained from the classes was turned into meals distributed for free to people experiencing homelessness. "We've created a full cycle," she explained in an interview with an international magazine. "Nothing is wasted, everything is transformed, and everyone benefits." The phrase became the official motto of Roots and was echoed in sustainable restaurants around the world. But the moment that stood out most to Jennifer in those 2 years was when chef Michael Patterson completed the restaurant's evening course. He had attended classes religiously for 6 months, learning not just culinary techniques, but also a new philosophy about food. "I want to completely revamp my restaurant," he told Jennifer at the graduation. "I want to follow your model." "Are you sure?" Jennifer asked. "It'll mean much less profit and a lot more social work." "I am," he replied. "These months here taught me that food isn't just about flavor and presentation, it's about purpose and social impact." Village Flavors was redesigned and became the second restaurant in the Roots network, maintaining culinary quality while embracing all the social and sustainable values of the original. 3 years after the first Roots opened, Jennifer stood at an international awards ceremony, accepting the Sustainable Chef of the Year prize. But she wasn't alone on stage. Beside her was Sarah Tyler, who had graduated with an engineering degree and developed composting systems for the restaurant, Amy, who had become the network's financial manager, and Nathan, who at 18 was already considered a prodigy in sustainable gastronomy. "This award isn't mine," Jennifer said in her speech. "It belongs to everyone who believed it's possible to turn need into opportunity, waste into treasure, and hunger into hope." The audience rose in applause, but Jennifer was looking at the table where the first students of Roots' evening course sat. Many now had their own food businesses, all based on the principles they'd learned in class. Mrs. Jenkins was there, now the owner of a small chain of gourmet street food diners. Next to her was Marcus, a young man who had started the course after leaving the prison system and now ran a food truck serving sustainable dishes at corporate events. "You know the best part of all this?" Jennifer told her siblings after the ceremony. "It's not the recognition or the awards. It's knowing we proved that when you use your talents to help others, everyone grows together." Tyler smiled and wrapped an arm around his sister. "Remember when you used to make those weird dishes with potato peels and we'd complain?" he said. "Who knew that would turn into a culinary revolution?" "It wasn't weird," Nathan defended. "It was innovative. We just didn't get it back then." "And now you do?" Jennifer teased her younger brother. "I get that you always knew there's no such thing as trash in the kitchen, just a lack of imagination," Nathan replied. "And that when you cook with love, any ingredient can become something special." 5 years after the first Roots opened, the network had expanded to 15 US cities and 3 South American countries. Each unit maintained the same standard: high-end cuisine based on sustainability and zero waste, combined with social programs for culinary education. Jennifer had become an international reference in sustainable gastronomy, but she still lived in the same neighborhood where she grew up, now in a larger house she bought to accommodate her expanded family. Tyler had gotten married and had a young daughter. Amy was engaged and planning to open a consulting firm for sustainable restaurants, and Nathan was finishing a technical course in gastronomy while already working as a sous chef at the original Roots location. "Aunt Jen," said her 3-year-old niece sitting on Jennifer's lap one Sunday afternoon, "why do you always say food shouldn't go in the trash?" "Because food is love, sweetheart," Jennifer replied, offering her a piece of cake made with caramelized orange peels, "and love should never be wasted." The simple answer perfectly summed up the philosophy that had guided Jennifer's entire journey. From the days when she scavenged for food, to feed her siblings, to becoming an internationally recognized chef, she had always understood that cooking was an act of love and transformation. Success had brought opportunities she never imagined, but it had also confirmed something she always knew: the best flavors don't come from the most expensive ingredients, but from creativity, care, and the need to nourish those we love. One Thursday evening, As Jennifer taught a new class of students how to turn beet stems into crispy chips, a 16-year-old girl raised her hand. "Chef Jennifer," the girl said, "my mum always throws away vegetable peels. How do I convince her to let me use them?" "Show her that peels can become something delicious," Jennifer replied with a smile. "Cook her a dish using only what she'd normally throw away. Once she tastes it, she'll understand." "Is that how you convinced your brothers?" another student asked. "My brothers didn't have a choice," Jennifer answered honestly. "It was either eat what I could make or go hungry. But over time, they started to enjoy it and even gave suggestions." "And now they work with you," the first girl observed. "Now they're my partners," Jennifer corrected. "This isn't just my story anymore, it's ours." The class continued, with students learning to prepare a full meal using only ingredients that would typically be discarded. Carrot peels became seasoning for an aromatic broth, kale stems turned into a creamy sauté, and tomato seeds transformed into a spicy, flavorful sauce. By the end, each student left not just with recipes and techniques, but with a new perspective on waste and creativity. This was exactly what Jennifer had planned from the start, multiplying knowledge and awareness. "Chef," the 16-year-old girl said as she was leaving, "can I ask you a personal question?" "Of course," Jennifer replied. "Don't you feel angry at people who waste food when they know others are starving?" The question was direct and touched on a sensitive point. Jennifer considered carefully before answering. "I used to," she admitted, "but I learned that anger changes nothing. Education does. When you teach someone to see value where they once saw trash, you're changing how they see the world. And that works. Look around," Jennifer said, gesturing to the other students packing up their things and excitedly discussing the dishes they'd make at home. "Every person who leaves here will teach at least one other. That's how real change happens, one kitchen at a time." The answer satisfied the girl, who left the class with a determined smile on her face. 6 years after beginning her journey at Roots, Jennifer was preparing for another evening of classes when she received an unexpected call. It was from an American university offering a chair in sustainable gastronomy. "It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity," Sarah said when Jennifer told her about the offer. "You could influence a new generation of chefs from all over the world." "But it would mean leaving all of this behind," Jennifer replied, looking around the kitchen where she had learned she could turn dreams into reality. "Not necessarily," said Nathan, who had joined the conversation. "You could accept it for a period, teach there a few months a year, and keep coordinating everything here the rest of the time." The idea was tempting, but Jennifer wondered if she should step away, even temporarily, from the work she had built so carefully. "Can I think about it?" "Of course," Sarah said. "But remember, you've already proven your ideas work here. Maybe it's time to plant those seeds elsewhere too." The final decision came during a conversation with Mrs. Jenkins, who, now 75, still attended advanced classes at Roots, purely for the joy of learning. "Sweetheart," the elderly woman said while peeling potatoes with a technique Jennifer had taught her 5 years earlier, "do you know the difference between planting a seed in the same bed every time and scattering seeds across different fields?" "What?" Jennifer asked, curious. "In the same bed you get one strong plant," Mrs. Jenkins explained, "but by scattering seeds, you grow a forest." The metaphor was perfect. Jennifer realized it was time to expand her impact beyond the boundaries she had set. She accepted the university's offer, but under specific conditions. She would spend 6 months a year in the United States, developing a sustainable gastronomy program that included partnerships with low-income communities. The other 6 months, she would work on expanding the Roots network to other countries. "We'll miss you," Tyler said at her farewell before the first trip. "I'm not leaving," Jennifer replied. "I'm just taking a little piece of us elsewhere and bringing a little piece of those places back here." The first semester in the United States was challenging but rewarding. Jennifer discovered that food waste was a global issue, but solutions could be adapted to different cultures and economic realities. She developed a program teaching American students to create sophisticated dishes using peels, stems, and overripe fruit, adapting Brazilian techniques to local ingredients. The success was immediate. Professor Robinson, one of her American students, asked, How did you discover potato peels could be turned into gourmet chips? Out of necessity, Jennifer answered simply. When you can't afford to waste anything, you learn to see potential in everything. Her response sparked deep reflection among the students, many of whom came from wealthy families and had never worried about food waste. During the semester, Jennifer also partnered with local organizations working with vulnerable communities. The university's outreach program began offering free sustainable cooking classes in community centers, replicating the Roots model on American soil. When she returned to the United States at the end of the semester, Jennifer brought back not just new techniques and international connections, but also a broader perspective on how far her work could reach. How was it? Sarah asked eagerly. I learned our approach works anywhere, Jennifer replied. Waste and creativity are universal. They just need adapting to each culture. And the students, how did they react? At first they were skeptical, admitted Jennifer. They didn't understand why anyone would use vegetable peels when they could buy normal ingredients. But when they tasted the results, they were amazed. The same thing happened here at first, Nathan remarked. Exactly, said Jennifer. The initial resistance is always the same, but when people try it, they realize it's not about poverty or lack of choice. It's about creativity and sustainability. Jennifer's work at the American University led to academic papers, documentaries, and interest from other international institutions. Invitations began pouring in from universities in Europe, Asia, and Africa. But the invitation that moved her the most came from an UNFA organization working on food security. They wanted her to develop a program to teach communities in developing countries how to maximize the use of available food. This is exactly the kind of work I've always wanted to do, Jennifer told her family gathered one Sunday, using what I've learned to help people in the same situation we were in years ago. It'll mean traveling a lot, Amy pointed out. It will, Jennifer admitted, but you can come with me on some trips. And when I'm away, you'll handle everything here. You've already proven you can do it. It was true. During the 6 months Jennifer had spent in the United States, her siblings had managed the operation in the US without a hitch. Tyler had developed new logistics systems for distributing recovered ingredients. Amy had expanded social programs to 3 more cities, and Nathan had created new recipes that became instant hits on the menu. We're a team, Tyler said. No matter where you are, we're still a team. Jennifer's first international project with UNFA was in Haiti, working with rural communities facing food security challenges due to climate change. She spent 3 months teaching techniques for fully utilizing local foods, adapting her American approaches to Haitian ingredients and culinary traditions. Chef Jennifer, said Naomi, one of the program participants, you're teaching us to see our own food in a new light. How so? Jennifer asked. We always threw away yam peels because we thought they were useless, Naomi explained. Now we know they can be turned into nutritious flour for bread. And the mango pits we discarded can become powdered seasoning, added another participant. Jennifer smiled, recognizing the same process of discovery she had experienced as a child. Necessity had taught her that every food had multiple uses, and now she was sharing that wisdom with people facing similar challenges. The program in Haiti was so successful that requests came in to replicate it in other countries. Jennifer spent the next 2 years alternating between the United States, the US, and developing nations, always carrying in her luggage the philosophy she had learned while gathering food at Chelsea Market in New York City. You know what impresses me most about your international programs, Sarah said, during a video call while Jennifer was in a village in the Philippines. What? It's that you're not just exporting American techniques, Sarah observed. You're exporting a way of thinking about food, and each place adapts it to their own reality. It was a sharp observation. Jennifer had learned that culinary sustainability wasn't about specific recipes, but about mindset and creativity. Everywhere she went, she found different ingredients and traditions, but she always identified opportunities to reduce waste and maximize nutrition. In the Philippines, she worked with rice husks to create nutritious flours. In Ecuador, she taught indigenous communities how to use quinoa stems and leaves that were traditionally discarded. In Jamaica, she developed techniques to turn dried fruit peels into aromatic spices. Every place teaches me something new too, Jennifer said in an interview for a documentary about her international work. I'm not the one bringing knowledge to them. It's an exchange. They show me ingredients and techniques I'd never considered before. 7 years after opening the first Roots, Jennifer had become a global reference in sustainable gastronomy and community development. Her techniques were taught in dozens of countries, her books had been translated into multiple languages, and her business model had inspired hundreds of restaurants worldwide. But when asked about her greatest achievement, she always gave the same answer. Seeing my siblings fulfilled and independent, she'd say. Tyler is an engineer, has his own family, and keeps developing sustainable solutions. Amy is a successful entrepreneur, helping other restaurants implement social practices. Nathan is a chef in his own right, creating innovations I never imagined. They don't need me to survive anymore, but they choose to keep working with me because they believe in what we do. And what's next? The interviewer asked. Jennifer thought for a moment before answering. To keep planting seeds, she finally said. Every person who learns to see value where they once saw waste becomes a seed of change. My job is to spread those seeds across the world. And personally, any plans to start your own family? I already have a family, Jennifer replied with a smile. My siblings, my nieces and nephews, Sarah, and everyone who's been part of our classes. Family isn't just who you're born with, it's who chooses to grow with you. The answer concluded the interview, but perfectly summed up the life philosophy that had guided Jennifer since childhood. She'd learned early that when you care for others, they care for you, creating a support network that goes far beyond blood ties. 8 years after starting her journey at Roots, Jennifer was preparing a special dinner to celebrate the restaurant's anniversary. The menu would feature dishes she'd created as a child to feed her siblings, elevated to gourmet standards. The appetizer would be sweet potato peel chips with pumpkin seed paste, the same dish she'd made during her first test with Chef Michael Patterson. The main course would be a sautéed stem stew with slow-cooked shredded meat, inspired by the meals she made at 12. Dessert would be fruit peel compote with ripe pulp ice cream, a refined version of the sweets she crafted to cheer up her siblings on hard days. It's amazing how these dishes taste like home, Tyler said, sampling the appetizer during preparations. Because they are home, Jennifer replied. They're our history turned into food. Remember when you made that soup with the broccoli stems Mrs. Thompson from the market gave you? Amy asked. I do, Jennifer said, smiling. You all complained it was too bitter. It was, Nathan admitted. But now I understand you were working miracles with what you had. They weren't miracles, Jennifer said. It was love. When you cook with love for people you love, any ingredient can become something special. The anniversary dinner was an absolute success. Food critics, fellow chefs, NGO representatives, and alumni from their social programs gathered to celebrate not just a restaurant, but a movement that had changed how thousands viewed food and waste. During the dinner, Sarah gave a speech that moved everyone present. 8 years ago, I met a young woman who had turned a childhood of hardship into extraordinary culinary wisdom, she said. I thought I was offering her an opportunity, but I discovered she was offering the world a revolution. Today, the model we created together exists in dozens of countries and has directly impacted thousands of lives. But the most important thing isn't the numbers, it's the shift in mindset that Jennifer inspired in all of us. She taught us that there's no such thing as kitchen waste, only a lack of creativity. That food is an act of love that should never be wasted, and that when you use your talents to help others, everyone grows together. The audience applauded, but Jennifer was watching her siblings, who had become so much more than family. They had become partners, friends, and companions on a journey that had surpassed every dream she'd ever dared to have. May I say a few words? Jennifer asked, standing up. When I was 12 and had to learn how to feed my siblings with market scraps, I never imagined those lessons would become the foundation of my career, she said. I was only thinking about how to make nutritious, tasty food with the little we had. Now I understand that what we had wasn't little at all. We had love, creativity, and a close-knit family. With that, we turned peels into chips, stems into sauces, and leftovers into feasts. Roots is so much more than a restaurant. It's proof that when you don't waste ingredients, don't waste talent, and don't waste opportunities to help others, you can create something that nourishes not just the body, but the soul. Thank you to everyone who believed in this wild idea from a girl who learned to cook by salvaging food. You turned a dream of survival into a reality of social change. The speech ended with a standing ovation that lasted several minutes. But for Jennifer, the most special moment came afterward, when she was alone in the kitchen prepping for the next day. Her siblings walked in, each carrying a dish from the early days. Tyler brought cassava peel chips made with Jennifer's original recipe. Amy prepared the sautéed stems that had been the first gourmet dish Jennifer ever created for them. Nathan made the banana peel compote that had been the family's favorite dessert for years. "We wanted to remember where it all started," Tyler said. "And to thank you for never giving up on us," Amy added. "And for turning our need into abundance," Nathan finished. Jennifer looked at the 3 simple dishes, made with the same techniques she'd developed as a child, and felt an emotion no international award had ever stirred. Here was the true measure of her success. Not only were her siblings thriving, but they had chosen to remain part of her story. "You know what makes me proudest?" she said, hugging all 3. "What?" they asked in unison. "That we proved one person's trash really can become another's treasure," she said. "And that when a family comes together with purpose, they can change not just their own lives, but thousands of others too." "So what's next?" Nathan asked. "What's the next dream?" Jennifer looked around the kitchen, where she'd learned to turn impossibilities into possibilities, where she'd discovered her talent could be a tool for social change, and where she'd built not just a business, but a legacy. "The next dream is to keep dreaming," she answered. "To keep finding ways to turn need into opportunity, waste into abundance, and hunger into hope. There's still so much trash in the world that needs to become treasure." The answer perfectly summed up not only Jennifer Robinson's future plans, but also the philosophy that had guided her entire journey. From the 12-year-old girl scavenging for food at the market to the internationally acclaimed chef, she had always held the same belief, that with creativity, love, and determination, any difficult situation can be turned into an opportunity for growth and transformation. Years later, when culinary students asked what the secret to her success had been, Jennifer always gave the same answer she had shared with her siblings that special night in the kitchen at Roots. "There's no such thing as trash in life, only opportunities in disguise, waiting for someone creative enough to see them and turn them into something beautiful." And so the girl who had grown up eating scraps became the woman who taught the whole world that with love, creativity, and purpose, any ingredient, whether food or circumstance, can be transformed into something extraordinary. End of story. So, what did you think of this story of perseverance and transformation? Jennifer proved that when we have purpose and creativity, we can turn any hardship into an opportunity. Tell us in the comments, have you ever had to get creative with ingredients others might consider worthless? Do you know someone who, like Jennifer, turned a tough situation into success? Leave a like if this story moved you, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other inspiring stories like this one.